Hi, and thanks for watching another instructional video for CSCI 1300. In this video, we will cover how to use the debug tool in VS Code. The debug tool is extremely useful when trying to diagnose errors within your program or to check for how your process is actually being executed at any given time. Normally, your code would compile top to bottom very quickly when you compile it through the terminal, and all you would see would be the output at the end of your code. If, however, you wanted to actually check what was going on as your code was actually being executed before the output was actually printed back to the user, you could use your debug tool in order to do that. One thing to note is in order to use the debugger in VS Code, you will need to install the Code Runner extension in the Extensions tab on the left, and follow the instructions to set up the debugger for your operating system, whether that be Windows, Mac, or Linux. Once you have actually gotten the debugger installed, you'll notice that we will be able to set breakpoints to the left of the line number in our program. For instance, say we wanted to check line 10, where we have an if statement. So what we will do is we will select a breakpoint just to the left of that line number. You can also set as many breakpoints as you would like throughout the program, depending on how large or how complex your program is. Once you have selected a breakpoint to the left of the line number that you want to check for numbers, you can go up to the top, select Run, and then start debugging in order to start the debug process. What you'll notice is that a couple of things have occurred. One thing is that we'll now have a variables pane off to the left of our debug menu, which will enable us to track the contents of variables as we change them throughout the program. Our terminal should appear on the right, and if not, you can always switch to it through the triple dot on the right. And lastly, there is this new panel of operations at the top of your window, which will enable you to use the debug tool in many different ways. So for instance, say we were to input a value of 13 into our terminal when prompted for floor. We can see here that our local variables have been updated because we have now initialized them and we have gotten to line 10. And at this point, floor has the value of user input, which was 13. Actual floor has been set to 0 because we have initialized it on line 9. And we are hovering at line 10, doing an evaluation of if floor is greater than 13. So here we are asking a question. We're saying, is this true? Is this statement true? So is floor greater than 13? Well, no, it's actually got the threshold value of 13, which means that this would actually be false since we're looking for 13, anything larger than 13, so 14 or above. So if we use our step over tool, we'll notice that we go to the next thing that is actually implemented in the code cycle. So we go into an else statement because our if statement was false. We then evaluate actual floor is equal to floor. And we can see over here that actual floor has been updated or overwritten from a value of 0 to equal 13. If we step over one more time, we can see that we're getting the output to the user at the end of our program. A couple of things to note is that you can continue a process if you don't need to check every single step over command. You can use step into or step out of. If you have a larger piece of code and say you have a loop or something, you can use these to get in and out of a nested piece of code, a nested branch of code. If you want to restart a program while still in the debug panel, you can use the circular green arrow to restart the entire process. So for instance, say we input floor this time, and we go to our if statement on line 10, we can see that we actually enter line 12. So we go into the body of the if statement here to evaluate actual floor differently because we had a value that was larger than 13, so 14 or above. And we can see that the next thing that happens is the else statement is jumped over completely because this was true. Our else statement is never evaluated. and we output to the user we have computed. Lastly, we can also use a stop button to kill the debug process, which is the red square at the end here. So if we select stop, then our code will go back to our regular VS Code screen, and we can go back to using the terminal or anything else related to modifying the program. Well, that's all for now on using the debugger. Thanks for watching, and happy coding!